If you know someone doesn't have the capacity to give you enough, then you can't expect them to give you enough. If you know that a person is at a certain level of emotional availability, you can't force them to be more available for you. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Arielle. I talk about my feelings after years of being kind of dissociated, and I'm an Aquarius, so it's hard for me to access my feelings. So this is a huge thing for me, and I made a channel about it. All right, y'all, we're talking about something that is really hard for especially us empaths and highly sensitive people to talk about, and that is intentionally trying not to choose people who we know will disappoint us. If I wear this, it's gonna take over my face. Look at it. Well, actually, I think it's kind of cute. No, okay. If you are an empath, you know that that's a superpower. You know that most people actually kind of praise you for being a person who can figure things out emotionally better than they do. A lot of people will go to you a lot of the times and you'll feel really confident about the fact that you're an empath in some ways. You'll feel really confident about kind of taking care of people. You'll feel really confident that you can give better advice than most people, probably. But if you over-identify with that, then you have to admit when you feel like you're not getting enough back. And so it can be harder for us to have a bunch of different types of friends because we think we have to approach every friendship that way. We don't need to be super available to everybody. Here are ways to set boundaries and expectations for the people that you want to have in your environment so that you can choose intentionally what you want and the people you want in your life. So the first one is you have to start identifying what is triggering you. Identify what you don't want. So this can be a hard process, and maybe you can work with a therapist on it. Be gentle with yourself as you go through this list, because maybe there are some things that you haven't really dug up yet. For me, it can be difficult to be around people who aren't emotionally available. And the biggest trigger is when they completely shut down or ignore me when I'm in a moment of need. And I have parents that are baby boomers. Yeah, I have parents who are baby boomers, and I am Asian. So yeah, no one cared about their feelings in their time. And so when I had something as simple as I don't know, maybe I hurt my elbow, I'm not sure, my mom would be like, oh my God, stop crying. You don't hurt. You don't feel anything. And me, as an empath and hypersensitive person, more so than most other kids, that affected me. She also would often just shut down whenever I had much deeper emotional feelings. She, if I were to cry, she would yell at me to stop crying. If I was told my sensitivity was hurting my parents, I basically took that on as my identity. My strongest skill set, actually, of sensitivity is offensive to my parents. Look at what has triggered you so that you could see what you really want instead. Okay, so another thing that you can do is actually writing down what you want. So this can be called manifesting, setting intentions, overall, it's just getting clear on what you want in your life. And the most important part of this is actually believing that it's true. I think I have a hard time with this because I have so much familiarity with being in environments with people who do the opposite. They're not emotionally available. And so it's hard for me to even fathom that there could be different people. And it's also hard for me to let go of the familiarity of emotionally unavailable people. And what's helpful is to write down a list of what you want. For me, it's obviously someone who is more emotionally available. They don't have to be full therapist. They don't have to be um like someone who is overly sensitive either. But I would prefer, and I suggest this for everybody, somebody who is more self-aware, who's done some work on their own traumas, who actively builds habits and is looking out for creating environments that are safe and more open. And if I run into somebody, like, this is my issue. Sometimes I'll start dating somebody, I'll realize, oh, they haven't dealt with their trauma. I need to be very intentional and also realize that that person does exist. Those environments that are healthier for you do exist. I'm trying to find them, but what you need to do is just allow yourself to let go of the familiarity of the unhealthy environments. Okay, well, that'll be the next thing. Okay, this one's the hard one. What actually is letting go? Like, and I've talked to therapists about this. I've gone to a life coach. I've watched several videos from very big, like, spiritual YouTubers. And everyone agrees that it's this weird concept. Like, how do you let go of your own habits of choosing people that aren't healthy for you? For me, it's pretty holistic because you have to change your belief systems. You have to change, like, physically how you react to things. So your body chemistry does need to change. And in doing both those things, your emotions will start to change. Also, in terms of your emotions, start having more compassion for them. So here's what I've been doing. I actually went to a life coach who did somatic body communication, I guess that's what it's called. So she knew that I had a lot of body tension. She knew that I got into this fight or flight, like, guardedness whenever I was intimate with somebody, whenever I was around. Just generally, I'm always, like, protecting myself. And so she went in and, like, had me talk to my body and ask it, why do you feel tense? And my body basically responded to me by saying, because things feel unsafe. Because I never felt safe to express myself before. So she, like, in this case, I did Reiki, and physically my body was starting to expel all the energies of ways that I didn't feel safe. But if you're not going to drop money on a life coach and Reiki healing, you could also do something similar. There are somatic body workouts that kind of connect you with, like, I think it's like they help you your nervous system regulate as you are actually going through movements. And so that helps you reconnect to your body's movements while being present. Because I know a lot of us kind of just move in response to survival mode or whatever is making us stressed. And so if your body is in constant state of stress, it will hold on to all of the old habits that cause it stress, which are coming from different beliefs. So start to reconnect to your body. And I think it's important to rewrite your belief system that people are always going to be a certain way, or that there will only be bad, I don't know, there will only be self-centered narcissistic men in the world, or, like, I'll never date anybody, like, in a healthy way. I will never get treated right. All of these sort of negative self-talk belief systems, write them down and try to rewrite them. So instead of saying, like, I will never find an emotionally available partner, say, there are many emotionally available options for me to choose from. And the thing is it is true. And intellectually, you know that it's true. You just have to connect with the belief system that it's true. And then the last one is probably the most difficult, or at least to me. And it's you have to be really decisive with what you want to do with the relationships you have right now. So if you've known your whole life that your cousins, your family, whoever it is, like if you've known that they are a certain way and you've always responded to them in the same way, you've always been feeling like evicted to them, you kind of just let them be shit. Like you let them be assholes in front of you and you feel powerless to it, but it still bothers you and you still have to be around them a lot. You have to decide now how to set real boundaries around them. So now that you're aware of what you don't want, what you do want, then now you're better able to decide. You get to be super choosy what level of access every person has to you. And not only that, you have to set boundaries within yourself for what level of energy, of thoughts you're willing to give to them. So if you have, let's take for example, you have a cousin who is always, I don't know, like in competition with you. They're always trying to one up you. They're always trying to put you down for what your career goals are. Then it's time for you to decide, do I want to see this cousin that often? Obviously, you don't want to. Now, how often do you want to see them? Do you see them at obligatory holiday events? Sure, that's fine. Okay, at those holiday events, how often are you going to talk to them? If sometimes it's unavoidable, but maybe you can go off and talk to your other cousins, and if that cousin strikes up a conversation with you, if they are talking about or making comments on your career stuff, maybe we can learn how to shut down that conversation, how to divert that conversation, how to build a boundary and say, I'm not comfortable with this conversation. And that's completely okay. That's allowed. You don't have to think that you're being too rude for setting boundaries. The other person was being rude. Okay. You can also decide not to go to a family gathering, and that's also okay. You can decide to leave early. You can decide to actually pull them aside and say, hey, this is how I've been feeling, admittedly. I would like to continue a relationship with you because you're my cousin. However, I have been feeling this way. It's up to you to gauge if this is a person who'll be responsive or not. If they're not, at least you got to say your piece, you know? So it's time to look at, it can be harder to do this with, let's say, your parents, maybe with a long-term partner that you've had. And because there's so much more attachment there. I know that's difficult. I suggest you maybe write down all your feelings to them in like a letter that you'll never send. Maybe write it online, then delete it afterwards so that you can kind of get out all of your more defensive, frustrated feelings. And then you can sit down and decide, like, actually, what would be the best course of actions for this? I think I'm going to say that not all of us have put in boundaries with people and that really need it. And we have taught them how to treat us for too long. And this might make them surprised, but it's okay. At any point in your life, you're allowed to set boundaries. At any point in a relationship, you are. Because you as a person get to grow independently of that relationship. And it is up to the other person as to whether or not they want to grow with you. The main thing is you get to change your reality by changing your thoughts and your body's responses to things. Through your habits, through the way you want to reframe things. And you can decide how much access someone has to you. Not the whole world isn't terrible. Okay, let me rephrase that. Not everyone is terrible. Okay? And I know that's hard to hear, and it's frustrating when someone tells you you've been a victim your whole life, or like you need to stop complaining because you're too sensitive. The fact that you're sensitive isn't the issue. It's that we need to learn how to be sensitive plus build boundaries. We have to be sensitive plus realize that not everybody is for us, and we're not for everybody else. Use your sensitivity for good. Don't waste it on people that are just mooching off on you because they don't want to look within and work on themselves. Okay? Okay. Well, until next time, peace and love. Bye-bye.